Okay, so first thing you're going to do is go to starkstate.edu. Okay, and this is Stark State's main page. You can always bookmark this if you want. And we're going to go all the way to the very bottom. On the left, there's two different logins. Blackboard will take you directly to the gradebook and your courses. Right now, we're just going to do my Stark State login. Okay, so my Stark State login. Okay, and hold on, let me see if I can. Okay, so first thing it's going to ask for is your college email address. So how this works is it's going to be your first initial, so mine's K, and then your last name, McDonald, and then it's going to be the 4 digits of your birthday. So my birthday is 0927, okay, and then it's going to be at starkstate.net. Okay. So, okay, McDonald, first initial, last name, birthday at starkstate.net, and then hit next. Now, mine's actually a little bit different than yours, so I'm going to edit mine, but that's what the student version looks like. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Then it'll tell you to enter a password. Everybody on the password page? We okay? We're not? Okay. We just want to troubleshoot as we go here. Okay, go all the way down. Done. My Stark State login. Okay, got it. And then who else? Yep. Okay. Okay. All right. Maybe then just load up like a blank document and type what your user and password will be. So once it's going, then you'll log in. Hold on. Okay, go back. We'll come back, okay? Maybe open up a blank document and just type your username and password will be. Did you go to the website, the Stark State website by Google, or did you type the web address? Okay. All right, we'll figure that out. Okay, so you're in Blackboard at least. Yes. Okay. So, well, log in. Go all the way down to the bottom left. I'm going to show you where some things are. We're not going to Blackboard first, right? Okay. So all the way down. My Stark State login. So yeah, you guys want to go to Blackboard. That's for sure where our most important information is going to be for this class. But My Stark State, you're going to need to get transcripts and course registrations and everything in there. Okay. So no middle initial right now. Okay, and then it's email it's asking for right now. So it's at starkstate.net. Maybe this one. Just hit next right now. Try the at starkstate.net. All right, good. Okay, now password. Password is going to be your 3 initials. So you can't see what I'm typing right there, but it says KEM. What do you think my middle initial is, or my middle name is? No caps, all lowercase. KEM. What's my middle name? Elizabeth. Then you put an X. Good question. If you do not have a middle name, or if you didn't give Stark State your middle name, you just put an X for your middle initial. Then you're going to put a period. Okay. Then this is where it gets tricky. It's going to be the first 6 numbers of your Social Security. Do you know what those are? First 6 of your Social Security, okay? So I'm going to write on the board up here, KEM is mine, period, and then the first 6 numbers of your Social Security. Now, if you don't know that off the top of your head today, you have homework. You need to find the first 6 numbers. If it's on your phone, you can grab it. That's okay. We'll put those back. Okay. Text your mom. Yes, your mom should know. In a little bit. Yes, for sure.
You said the first 6?
First 6 of your Social Security number. Okay. And then it might ask you for a phone number for like verification purposes. It's asking me for mine right now. So I need to get my text message here. There we go. Okay. And then you know you are signed in if it looks something like this. Okay? Okay, try it with an X for your middle initial. Okay, and then you can change the password if you want. I would recommend just keeping the password the same. So just typing in the new password as the old password. That way I know how to tell you how to get into it. Yep. Just do the same thing again. Somebody last period. Yep, so 3 initials, period, first 6 of your social. Okay. Now, even if you can't log in right now, I want to show you where something very important is. A lot of things you guys have to do through Stark State, you will need your Stark State ID number, and that's your college ID. So on the top right, it says show college ID, and it always starts with S00, and then there's 6 digits after it. That is your Stark State ID number. So that's going to be something that you're actually going to have to fill out on the paper for us in a little bit. Yes. It won't let you. Think whatever you want. You remember what it is. Okay. So I have yeah. I'll help troubleshoot if you guys haven't made it there yet. Once you do get into Stark State, you guys saw the Blackboard link earlier that's on Stark State's website. You can use that. Or on the top right here, you've got a couple options. One is mail. You guys have a Stark State email account. That's how you access it. Right next to that is a little E with a graduation cap. That's Blackboard. So if you click there, it'll take you to Blackboard. Okay, and then you want to go to courses. And these are all mine that I'm teaching, but you guys should see a college algebra 1 on there, okay? And if you don't have a college algebra 1, we're going to take a few minutes here and I'll check the spreadsheet to figure out why college algebra isn't showing up for you if you don't know already why it's not there. Okay, so let's take like 5 minutes. I'm going to help a couple people that need to figure out kind of where we're running into a hurdle. You guys can use your phones for a few minutes if you want, and then we're going to actually probably, what time is it? You're at 12:02. We're probably going to do a quick little 20-minute lesson. Start 2-1 today, I think. Okay, so we'll do a little troubleshooting, take a few minutes, and then we'll come back together and start 2-1. Give me a second. Let me stop this. All right, so we're going to start with section 2-1 just a little bit today. You do have homework in 2-1, but you don't even need to start it this weekend unless you really, really want to. Okay, so optional if you want to check that out in Math Excel. But you guys will officially be assigned it on Monday, and this 2-1 Math Excel is going to be due on, let's see, the 24th. So next Wednesday night, this assignment is due. So if you want to start it, you can. Math Excel, as a reminder, when you are doing the homework, you get at least 3 attempts on each problem if you're not getting it right. After you get it wrong, you can hit try a similar problem, and it'll let you try again a different set of numbers 3 times. You can also always email me questions. You can hit the Ask My Instructor button, and it sends me like a little screenshot of whatever problem you're working on, okay? All right, so the coordinate plane, this is just going to be a little review to start. I'm hoping you probably don't, from this slide, need to write anything down. This is just review of our terminology with the coordinate plane. So we've got our origin in the middle. X-axis is our horizontal axis. Y-axis is our vertical axis. Our quadrants start in the top right corner, and we number them counterclockwise with Roman numerals. And then when we graph points, we always go left to right first. Our x-coordinate is first, up and down second, our y-coordinate is second. Look familiar? Okay, great. So, we're going to skip that. We'll come back to that one. We're going to have 2 major formulas that are in this section. The first is the distance formula. So I want you guys to write that down. I'll circle it for you right here. Okay, so the notation, the D and then parentheses P comma Q, tells us we are calculating the distance between the points P and Q. X1 and Y1 come from the same point. X2 and Y2 come from the same point. So looking at this formula, there's kind of 3 big components. We're going to subtract our x's, find the difference in our x's, sometimes you'll hear that, and find the difference in our y's. Then we're going to square those parentheses and add them together. Finally, we take the square root to get the distance. On the left is a little picture of where this formula comes from. P and Q are the diagonal in this picture. If I want to find that distance, doesn't this just look like the hypotenuse of a right triangle? And if we want to find the length of a right triangle, our hypotenuse, isn't that just, remember what theorem it is? Starts with P. Pythagorean theorem. So the Pythagorean theorem says, if I want to know this distance, I take this side and square it, a squared. I take this side and square it, b squared. And then that gives me this side squared. So we take the square root. And if you look at this side, it's the difference in my y's, my difference in my heights. If you look at this side, it's the difference in my x's. And then we're squaring them, adding them together, taking the square root, because that's what we do in the Pythagorean theorem. So why is that helpful? Because that looks kind of messy. This tells you, like, hey, let's say you're on a test or quiz and you don't remember this distance formula. If you can plot the points, you can draw the triangle and use the Pythagorean theorem. That's all this formula is doing, okay? All right, so let's practice using the formula. At the bottom, it says, find the distance between the points -5, 2 and 3, -4. Okay, so option number 1, you can draw it, get your triangle, use the Pythagorean theorem. Sometimes it's a little cumbersome though. So we're going to call it points, I'll just say A and B, distance between A and B. And I'm going to set up my big square root. Okay, I'm going to set up my parentheses. And I know my parentheses are going to be squared plus between them. In one of the parentheses, you're subtracting the x's. In the other parentheses, you're subtracting the y's.
If I subtract my x's, it's -5 minus 3. If I subtract my y's, it's 2 minus -4. If you switch the points, it doesn't matter. Okay, as long as you're subtracting the x's and you're subtracting the y's, if the 3 and -4 came first, you'd get the same answer as if the -5 and 2 come first. I would recommend not using your calculator to do this. Most of the time, these are going to be just nice, pretty integers, and sometimes with the calculator and negatives, we make mistakes. You should be able to do all these in your head. What's -5 minus 3? -8, and if we square it, it's 64. And any negative number or any number squared is always positive. You should never, ever, ever have a negative number at this point under your distance formula. It should always be positive because we're always squaring things. 2 minus -4 gives me 6 squared, or 36. 64 and 36 added together give me 100. And the square root of 100 is 10. Final answer. We do not have to put plus or minus in front of it because it's a distance, and a negative distance doesn't make sense. Questions? Great. Okay, the other formula we need for this section is the midpoint formula. The midpoint is exactly what it sounds like. We have 2 points, and we're finding out what's right in the middle of those 2. The formula is listed at the bottom. Okay. If I want to find the midpoint x, y of 2 different points P and Q, to get the x coordinate, I add up the x's and divide by 2. To get the y coordinate, I add up the y's and divide by 2. This is essentially taking an average of the x and y coordinates, adding them and divide by 2. Okay, so let's do it with these points up here. I have the points 5, -2, and 6, -1. I want to find the midpoint of those coordinates. So my midpoint, I'm going to start by adding my x's and divide by 2. 5 plus 6 over 2. And add up my y's. -2 plus -1 over 2. 5 plus 6 over 2 gives me what? 5 plus 6 over 2 is 5.5. You can say 5.5. That's fine because it's an exact answer. Let's say it was like 11 over 3. I would expect you to leave your answer like that. Okay, we do not give decimals with the bar over it. That's super messy if we want to do calculations with them further, and we don't round. Okay, exact answers, exact answers. And then -2 plus -1, so -1 over 3 is just going to give me -3 halves, or again, you could give an exact answer of -1.5. And that's the middle of those. Questions using the midpoint formula. Do you guys remember doing these before at some point? Great. Okay. Last problem of the day. We're going to do this one. I have 3 points. Point D is 6, 2, point E is -2, 0, and point F is 1, 5. They make a triangle. You can draw the picture if you want. I want to determine mathematically, not based on opinion, or I can look at it and kind of sort of guess. I want to know mathematically what kind of triangle this is. Is the triangle either, and you've got some review definitions from geometry there, isosceles, 2 sides are the same, equilateral, 3 sides are the same, or scalene, no sides are the same. So in order to figure out what kind of triangle you have, you need to know the lengths of the sides, right? If all 3 are the same, it's equilateral. If 2 are the same, it's isosceles, and if none are, it's scalene. The length of a side of a triangle, if you have points, is essentially just the distance between those 2 points. So if I want to know how long is side DE on my triangle, I'm just going to do the distance between D and E. If I want to know how long is side EF, I'm just going to do the distance between E and F, and also D and E. Oh no, D and F. What am I missing? There we go. Okay, so distance formula 3 times. And then we're going to compare our answers. If all 3 are the same, it's equilateral. If 2 are the same, it's isosceles. And if none are the same, it's scaling. So with your partner, do it. Give you a minute. Are we confident? All right, so you could get square root of 68 for the top one. If you didn't get that, I kind of broke it down. You can see what you should be adding underneath there. Ends up that those last 2 are the same. Do you guys remember how to break down a radical? Answers like the square root of 68 will lose you points on a test this year. I promise. So we need to know how to break this down. This is one of the things on your skills test. How do you break down square root 68? So you can use a tree. I don't love the tree, but the tree works because the tree can get kind of big. What else? Is there like a more efficient way to do that?
Take out the greatest perfect square.
Yes. So you're going to figure out what perfect square, what's the biggest perfect square that divides evenly into 68? What is it? 8 is not a perfect square. Perfect squares are 1, 4, well, 1 we don't want, that's not going to do anything, but 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49. What's the biggest one? 4 is the biggest one. 4 times what gives me 68? What? 17. So we figure out the factors that contain the greatest perfect square, and then the square root of 4 is what? 2. So we can make that 2 square root 17, and that is technically the answer you'd want to use on a test. Now, square root 34 doesn't break down because there are no perfect squares that divide evenly into it. So you know you don't have to simplify that any further. And if you don't know what divides evenly in, you're going to have at least a basic calculator most of the time. You can just kind of guess and check a little bit with those perfect squares to see what divides in if you don't know those factors. Okay, so we want to get in the habit of all answers are always exact and reduced, right? Okay, if it's a fraction, we're reducing it. Decimal only if it's exact. If it's a radical, we're reducing it because that's going to be like across the board rest of the year if you're not doing things like that. Even if you get the right answer, you're going to lose maybe a point each time you don't put the answer in the proper form. Okay? All right, so optional this weekend. If you want to start your 2-1 Math Excel, you can. We're going to finish up 2-1 on Monday, and then you guys will probably have some work time on Monday to work on Math Excel class. Sound good? Perfect. Okay, we're going to do a cell phone model. And then you guys have about 6 minutes left on your own here. All right, don't look. Don't look. Okay. 18. Somebody won. All right, get a ticket. You may grab your phone.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll do that for you. I'm like, bro, yeah.